Spain's Susana Rodriguez was crowned the Triathlon Paralympic Champion in the PTVI class at Tokyo 2020, adding to her 2 world titles in fine style and by an impressive 4-minute margin. Also a doctor in a parallel life, Sue has been on the front line of the country's battle against the COVID pandemic that forced her to pause her Paralympic ambitions and focus on her other career until the rearranged games. So, Sue, welcome to the World Triathlon Podcast. How and where are you?
Hello, I'm very happy to be with you. I'm a frequent listener of your ITU World Triathlon podcast, so I feel honored to be with you. And I am now back to Spain in Vigo, which is my city near Pontevedra. Everyone knows Pontevedra in triathlon world. Mm-hmm. So I am back here and a bit tired because of the trip back from Tokyo, but really happy to be back with my family and friends after like more than 2 months away. It's really nice.
I can imagine. Yes, huge congratulations on your achievement out there. Have you had time to reflect? So when did you actually travel back? And, is it when you're 30,000 feet up and you have that moment to just pause and think that, does it overcome you a bit, the emotion and the achievement?
Yeah, well, it was a bit delayed, the process of thinking about everything that happened in Tokyo 2020 triathlon race, because we raced on the 28th morning, then on the 29th I have the hits for the 1,500 meters in the Paralympics T11 race, and then unexpected, I qualified for the final, which was on the 30th, and on the 30th at night I was taking the flight back home. So it was very busy schedule until I took the flight back, and I think it was there when I realized that everything that happened was amazing, that all the brutal preparation ahead the games had paid off, and I think I need some more weeks to realize about everything.
Yeah, it'll be a nice period to just sort of remember parts of what presumably was quite a blur. Each one of those days where you were doing the familiarizations and so on, and that presumably those days in the lead up to the race are incredibly valuable and important for you as an athlete and all the athletes to start to focus the mind. And did you feel that as the days were ticking by and it was getting closer that you were getting more and more confident, or were the nerves kicking in? Or
I like a lot doing the familiarizations because as a blind athlete, it's very important to feel what will happen in the course and to know what's coming ahead, and to plan everything with my guide. So I did the swim, you need to learn how many buoys there are, what will be any advice of our guide if we have to turn right or left, because in the water you cannot talk about anything. You just have to focus on going ahead and going fast, and be very sensitive to realize if you are going far from the guide with the tether. You just feel the sensations in your leg. And then the bike course was technical but flat. I like this kind of courses in the middle of the cities. It was a bit like Yokohama World Series course, and I really love this kind of venue. And then the run, it was just also in the middle of the city with some turns, and I felt really confident when we had get to know all these places. It made me be very calm. Nerves just came the day before the race, because those final hours for me are critical and terrible. I always say, why I am here? And I think I'm not going to come again, but then you finish the race and you said, okay, I need the next as soon as possible.
Really? So on the start line, you tend to be, rather than, right, let's go, it's more, oh, why am I doing this? I could quite easily not.
Well, when I am at the pontoon, I just want to start and I feel fast and furious. But for me, the difficult part is just the day before the race and the night before the race. Then on race day, I changed my mind and I feel really ready. But the final hours are for me the most difficult. And in the Paralympics, everything gets like magnified. It's like we had been waiting 5 years for this race, and finally it arrived, and you just want to do it and do your best in there.
So a lot to discuss with you, but would like to start with what is your degree of impairment? Because obviously there are some, PTV athletes who are completely blind, some who partially sighted, and so on. So, yeah, where do you stand on that spectrum?
Well, the PTVI category, it's divided like in 3 different classes called 1, 2, and 3. The lower the number it is, the more severe the impairment it is. And this is the same in triathlon, in all the para sports. The lower the number, the more big it's the impairment. So I am in the PTVI 1 category, which is for the totally blind or a very small remaining sight. So we race with the blackout goggles with the reason that we are all at the same level when the race is ahead.
Yeah.
This is very important, and this is the same also in all para sports like swimming, athletics, or triathlon. This has been a change for me because I was in the PTVI 2 category, and I just changed in the last season, so I had to get adapted to this new situation. But it's okay. I have done it well, I think. I had trained a lot to Tokyo, and this has not been a challenge. The PTVI races, we have a factor system which tries to equal the field. In the case of the female, it's 3 minutes 48. In the case of the male, I think it's 3:18, if I remember well. This makes like the races are very different to other races, because when you are in the PTVI 1 category, you start and they come chasing, and when you are on the other side, you are behind and you have to chase all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I have been in the 2 sides, and it's quite challenging both. So this is our category. It's we rely on the guides for the full race, and I do my full training schedule with different guides in my city, because my guide, Sara, she lives in Barcelona. So I have friends who help me for everything here, except some turbo training at home. But I feel very pleased to all of them, because without them, I couldn't do this sport.
No. Was the move from 2 to 1 because of deterioration of your eyesight, or a reclassification of?
Well, I had been classified in 2019 for parathletics, so I had problem which got deteriorated since 2016 and the years after. It has not been a so big change, because I was like in the down part of the PTVI 2 category, but it was a change. So this happens sometimes in parasport, that you are reclassified, and it's one part of our sport that we have to do, like it's 2 years, it's 4 years, or it depends on what the classification panels decide.
And throughout your life, how has your eyesight gone? Were you born with a heavy impairment?
Yes, I was born with a heavy impairment due to albinism. What happens in albinism is that the central part of the retina, which makes you see the images in good resolution, this part is undeveloped. So since birth, every people with albinism had some kind of eye deterioration. There are different types of albinism. So depending on the type, this will be heavier or lighter. And then apart from this, I have a disease on the optic nerve. So this is what has made the biggest challenge during the years for me.
I think it must be pretty difficult for anyone to imagine what it must be like to complete a triathlon without being able to see what you're doing. And you talking earlier about the familiarizations, yes, obviously they take on a huge extra meaning when that's literally your first feeling of the course, right? So you're taking those presumably very deliberately and really meticulously planning with Sarah during
Yeah.
those familiarizations, are you?
Yes, I'm not going to share all my secrets, but
Perfect.
for all the people to know a bit more about the blind and visual impairment triathlon, getting to know the course, it's absolutely 10% important. And we talk about everything. And when I say everything, it's absolutely everything in the race. Except on the swim. I will know all the race course in my head, how many boys, if it's turning right, if it's turning left, when we are going to go out of the water, if there is one ramp, like for example in Tokyo, there was one ramp and it was like this. One more ramp, one more flat part, one more little ramp, and then going down a little ramp. I learned everything in my head. Then we have to decide how we are going to put the bike, the helmets, the shoes, the running tethers, where I am going to drink, where I am going to get up on the saddle. We talk absolutely about all the race. And for me, I like to do the course, like, because I can realize, for example, if there is more distance from the pontoon to the first buoy, or if it is more from the second buoy to the exit, I can realize a bit if the difference is big, but you cannot actually, when you are swimming, know at any moment if it is very near or very far. It's just going ahead and paying attention that you don't get a lot of hitting with your guide and you maintain the distance. Like there's like a rule that you can have 1.5 meters head-to-head distance, but I like to swim almost at the same level of my guides.
And the tether is at the waist or at the leg?
The tether is on the leg.
Yeah.
We take it near the hip. These different athletes use it, some in the ankle, some in the knee. We take it in the hip. The rule just means that the tether cannot be more than 80 centimeters long, and it has to be elastic and from a bright color. But you know, you cannot imagine, you can know what will happen in the course, but you cannot, when you are racing, you cannot actually imagine if something it is near or far. You just have to keep going and wait until the instructions of your guide.
Does would your guide always swim on the same side as you? Like every time have you always had?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I always take my guides in my right side. It doesn't matter if it is for swimming or for running, because when I was a kid and I had a less level of vision impairment, my good eye was the left. So I always wanted to have like the protection of the guide in the right. And now, in fact, I cannot actually do anything with the guide in the left. And when I am with my guides in the athletes village or in the street or taking food at the village dining hall, I always have them in the right. It's just something very stupid, but
Good to
I
get used
cannot.
to.
Yes, I cannot work with anyone in my left.
Yeah.
Side.
And over the years, how has the guy? I mean, your relationship with them, I suppose, can be more than just that sporting moment, right? But at the same time, it could just be someone that you don't have any relationship with at all, but you race brilliantly with. Is that like how has that sort of evolved or changed or?
It is after so many years in the sport. Now I look back And I say that it is very important to have a good guide with a nice sporting level, but you also need to have a good relationship out of the racing venue,
Right.
because it's 24 hours together. And well, if you have a very not severe impairment, and you can go away and do whatever you want, even if it's not in your city, or okay, you can maybe go train and go race, and it's okay, and don't have a good relationship. But when you need to be with your guide for daily things, things need to work perfectly in and out of the race. There are some times at my sports career that I had problems with a specific guide, and then at the moment of a specific race, we both were very professional and performed very good races. I can remember some, but I think in the end, it's very important to have a good relationship. And if this doesn't happen, it is better to change, because especially this last year, with all the challenges that I have faced, I one time, my sports psychologist asked me to write in a paper why did I do triathlon. And I I realized that the most big reason for me to do triathlon is to enjoy with the people that I do this sport. So if this at that point doesn't happen, then it is better to change the guide than to not stop loving the sport that you really love.
Yeah. So had Tokyo and Sarah always been hand in hand? Was that who you were planning working with at Tokyo the whole time?
Yeah, well, I started to work with Sarah last year in the middle of the pandemic.
Right.
I had been racing in 2018 and 2019 with Paula. Before, I have raced with Mabel, who was my guide in Rio. Before, I was racing with Mayalen, who was my guide from 2011 to 2016. I have had changes, but life is about sometimes changing some decisions, and it's okay. It's not easy, because each of the guides is someone who you have trust them with your life, literally. I mean, when you go down the hill in Lausanne, 80 kilometers an hour in the bike behind, you are trusting your guide with your life. And any of my guides are very important for me, and they have an important influence in my life, of course, not only in my sports career. And I feel very grateful to all of them.
I have to say that descent and turn in Lausanne was one of the most amazing things in the para competitions, where it was so fast, but everything looked so in sync, and it kind of just really hit home how this isn't just two people on a bike. This is the sort of perfect rhythmic compatibility of two people. It was amazing.
Yeah, it is. But I think a lot of details show that a team is synchronized, and that has worked a lot as a team. My coach says when he's watching the races, well, this year he has not been in the races because of the pandemic, but when he sees the races, he says, I can know who will train with the guide frequently, and who will train with other guys, or who will train in their own, and they are just together for the race. He sees different things, and he can realize who is on sync and who works like just a person, and who are working like two different people. Sometimes it's just repeating the actions 1,000 times. I will always remember before the Rio Paralympics, with my guide Mabel, we have decided to try and do the flying dismount of the bike, and we had done hundreds of dismounts. And when we get into the Paralympics, there was a lot of noise in the transition area, and it was very difficult to listen to her instructions.
Ah.
I was almost hitting a wall, like when I was off the bike. You have to repeat and repeat and repeat, and this is when blind athletes doing sports. Um, it's a lot about repeating, because you have to learn the things like with sensations, and you cannot learn like copying what another person is doing. So everything is much slower, and it is harder to teach, I think.
And then to find yourself, suddenly not able to hear because of the crowd noise, and you're like suddenly, whoa, the instructions have stopped and communications, everything. That must have been pretty terrifying.
It's difficult because the information you have, when you are not 100% sure that you will get it when they tell you, it's a bit difficult, yes. But this, it happens to me when I am in a very noisy place, or very crowded and noisy, that I feel like mm, I cannot difference the noise, the important noises and the important information. It's like a sensitive bomb of information, and this is a bit difficult. But and more in a race when the adrenaline levels are in the sky.
And so you did the 1500 meters, got through your heat somewhat against what you thought perhaps, but I don't. And you have a male guide. Male guides, or mixed guides are allowed in athletics.
Yes, in athletics, male guides are allowed, and almost 10% of the athletes have male guides in athletics, because it is a way easier to find a male guide who can easily run in fast times, and it's much easier to find male guides. In fact, in my city, I train 100% time with male guides. And I did this race. I really like racing the stadium, even it's uncrowded, and even I couldn't see anything at all there. We in athletics, we race with blindfolds, and down the blindfolds we wear eye patches, so you can see literally anything. But when you go out of the stadium and you listen to the person who is making the presentations, you listen the noise of the voice, and you realize that it is absolutely very big, the stadium.
You get the sense of the echo and things.
Yeah, of course, like there was no people and no crowd, but when I listened to the name of all the athletes, I realized, oh, this is very big. I had never been into an Olympic stadium, and because I was doing the triathlon, I have not gone to the opening ceremony, and nor to see the stadium. My guide went alone. My first time was for running the heats, and I did a good performance, and I was very happy with it. But when I was in the 300 meters, I realized that my legs were still in Odaiba Park.
Just when you needed them.
I did everything I could, and when you give 120% of you, it doesn't matter what happens, but you can feel happy for it.
So is athletics the next challenge for you? We're not going to lose you from the world of triathlon, are we?
I really, I always say that when you come from the Paralympics, you don't have to believe anything that the people say in the next coming weeks. Because like the Paralympics are like emotional and physical bomb, and I think this doesn't allow you to think clearly until some weeks have passed. But I really like triathlon, and the way of racing triathlon, of getting points, racing around the world. I really love triathlon, and sometimes I think I can still push harder and get better. I don't feel I have already arrived to my best option, to my best version. So I would like to try and get the sport to a bit of harder level. But I like running a lot, and maybe I would like to go to some Paralympics World Championships, saying that I have do full preparation for it, because I always go as a triathlete, and I get there and I realize that all the other girls have done 100% dedication training for that. So I feel that I would like to know where can I arrive if I prepare the race.
So not easy to discover sport at all, let alone become a Paralympic champion. Is it something that you just gravitated to very early on and were always very active and wanted to compete as whatever level, the highest level you could, or did it come later on?
Well, I always like sports, but my family background is not athletic at all. My parents or my grandparents never had the opportunity of practicing any sport. They lived in small villages in my country, and they had just to focus their life on working, and there was not free time for this kind of activity. This was not an obstacle, so that my family always wanted me to try sports, to try what sports I wanted. And then I started swimming, because my parents don't know how to swim, and they wanted me to know how to swim, just in case we went to the beach or on holidays, and I could manage in case of any emergency. The same for my sister, who is 2 years older. And then I tried athletics when I was 10 years old. And after that, I never left competing sports in athletics. Then I had other years in swimming. And I got to know triathlon finally in 2010, when it was not already a Paralympic sport. It was on the beat to Rio 2016. But the first time I did a duathlon race, I was not very fit. I have to say this, but I really liked the combination of multi-sports. And now I am absolutely amazed by this sport. And I really like that it's quite inclusive, the situation that we have the World Championships, the Continental Championships with the Olympic sports at the same place, with the elite para-triathletes. This is very good for all. I think we have the possibility of learning from each other, and this does not happen in other para sports apart from triathlon.
Yeah, I hear that, and it was something that Jetse Platt was talking about as well. And he had the opportunity to train with the Dutch Olympic team, and he said that that proximity of the triathlon and the para-triathlon is something that he obviously got a lot out of as well.
I think so. I have done different training camps with different athletes, Spanish elite athletes in triathlon, like Fernando Alarza or Antonio Serrat. We have seen them always in the top spots of triathlon in the last years. And it's very good to see them train and to train together. We finally do the same sport. There are different adaptations, but obviously the volume is not the same, because we race for sprint distance and they usually do Olympic distance, but this is the biggest difference. There are not many differences. The effort is the same, no more and no less, and it is very good to all, I think.
And for you, as someone finding a way in sport and wanting to develop as a so you started out as a swimmer and so on, at what point did you realize, I've spoken to a few athletes who didn't realize as young people, by virtue of where they lived or living in a small town or whatever, that the opportunities, I mean, the Paralympics being the very top of them, but even sort of regional opportunities for people, whether it's missing a limb or with visual impairment, did have. So did you have a moment or a situation where someone suddenly introduced you to the pathway that you were able to follow to representing your country, or was it a very gradual process?
Well, it was a very gradual process, but everything started when I was 10. I used to go to a normal school with children with no disabilities, but twice a week I had a special needs teacher for the blind from a national organization that there is in my country. And she came like twice a week, and with her I did the special work for a child with vision impairments. He taught me like to write and read in braille and these kind of things that you don't learn in normal school. And one day she came and she offered me the possibility to go to going to a para-athletics championships for kids with visual impairment in all the country. And for me, this was the beginning of everything. Then in my city, although it is quite big, there are not like special facilities for people with disabilities. So you just have to go to a team with other children with any kind of impairment. This makes sometimes things difficult because the coaches sometimes don't know how to explain you the things when you don't see, and this is difficult, but then it is good because it's a fully inclusive situation. So it has been gradual. Then I got to know triathlon by chance. I had some friends in triathlon and I was looking at the results of some national championships. I went into the Spanish National Federation website and find a little place where it said para triathlon. I didn't know even this existed, so I clicked with the mouse and found some information about a duathlon race which was coming in 2 months, and I said, okay, this is my next challenge. And after I tried that, then I went to race my first triathlon in Madrid, in Casa de Campo, where we had the World Series like until 2012, I think. Then I went to race in Hyde Park. Finally, in 2010, the triathlon was admitted to the Rio 2016 Paralympic program. And then it was when I decided, okay, I want to progress and I want to be in Rio.
Have you always had the competitive spirit that obviously anybody who gets to the top of a sport or indeed becomes a doctor probably needs?
Yes, I have always been a competitive person. Like when I was a kid, my sister, she's 2 years older and she doesn't have any kind of disability. So I wanted to do everything that she could do, even I was 2 years younger and even if I couldn't see. So I think she wasn't like my role model since the beginning. I realized that sometimes I should work harder to achieve things, but this I didn't matter this, I always decided to put difficult goals, and I never mind how much I did have to work to achieve them, but finally I could achieve them. And getting the goal in Tokyo, it has shown me one more time that when you work very hard towards something, not always, but sometimes you can finally get it.
But it must be very difficult, very challenging as a young girl growing up with albinism and not being able to see and going to a regular school, and inevitably, no matter how competitive and determined you are, that there's just going to be times that stops you doing what you want to do. So how did you cope with that?
Of course, there are difficult times, and more, I think, when you are younger or when you start new things, because sometimes you have to face barriers. I think a lot of times society understands that because you have any kind of impairment, you are going to be unable to achieve something, so you have to be like all the time doing a bit more than others to show that you are able to do the same than others. So I had difficult moments especially as a teenager, because you just sometimes wonder Why do I have to be different? And the most challenging thing about albinism sometimes is not the vision impairment, it's like the physical appearance. You know, at schools, it's nothing new that kids just sometimes do naughty things and naughty comments about someone who is different, and it was not different in my case. But luckily, I had a very supportive family, and not a lot, but some very supportive friends. So this has been very important for me to give me confidence and to believe in me.
Mm.
And I think this was the most important to overcome those difficult times.
And if you could tell your or show your teenage self the picture of you in your Spanish national kit on the front cover of Time magazine, it would probably blow your teenage mind, would it?
I think I wouldn't believe. I mean, um, I wouldn't believe, and for me, even now, it is quite strange because, um, like, I had some challenging years from going to Rio and Tokyo, because I was doing my medicine specialty and also trying to train as a full-time athlete. So when you're try to full work and full train, it's absolutely mad. But I could see this as a normal daily life. So when someone was surprised with this and decided to put it in the front cover of Time, for me it was like very surprising, because for me it's normal. Now that I am a full-time athlete, and this year I could get to know how it's to be a full-time athlete and not working and being able to recover from one session to another, I look back and I realize that what I did, it was quite challenging.
Absolutely. And incredibly important for, for people, for the, there's the We the 15 movement as well. And just to have that exposure, to have, a Paralympic champion who happens to have albinism on the front cover of a magazine like that must, that will do an awful lot for an awful lot of people that are going through what you went through as a kid as well, presumably.
I think it is very important that people with a different body appear in places, and this is no different with albinism. The situation of people with albinism around the world is very different, like from Europe to Africa. So it is very important that this condition is known, and that people with albinism are respected everywhere, doesn't matter where they are born. So I feel happy to imagine that me to appear in this magazine will be helpful to the well-being of other people with any kind of disability. And I think it's also nice to have a Spanish doctor in the cover of this magazine, because our country has gone ahead very difficult times during the pandemic, especially last year. And it's like a recognition to all the healthcare professionals that are still battling there.
Yeah, very true. And was your interest in medicine presumably driven somewhat by your condition as well?
Well, I don't think I was especially interested in medicine because my father, who is now retired, he was a doctor,
Uh-huh.
was an anesthesiologist, and I was always interested in medicine. But I always I was never 100% sure that I was going to be able to study this career. And then it was also difficult when I started working, because it's not frequent to have people with disabilities in the world of medicine. So you have to break a lot of barriers.
What is your specific field, and yeah, how does that impact on your professional, what you can do? How do you
It's
work around it?
yeah, it's difficult. Like in medicine, there are a lot of specialties, and when you finish your career, you have to choose, make one exam, and you have to choose which of them. And because of my impairment, I was unable to do the most of them. So I did physical medicine and rehabilitation. It's very related to physiotherapy, and I had also studied physiotherapy before, so I had a very good and solid base that helped me a lot during all my medicine specialty. I mean, maybe without the other, I wouldn't be able to do it. And of course, there are very specific skills, like things related to images that I am like, even if I want, I am not going to be able to do them. Not now, and very probably not in the future. But there are other things that yes, I can do. And luckily, in the Spanish system, I was able to have this education.
And as someone who's, you've been through a lot personally and through sport, but professionally, then in 2020 the Tokyo Games was put on pause. You were then working in the middle of, like you said, an absolute national crisis. So how did, for someone who's had some pretty difficult years, how did 2020 stack up in terms of those years?
Well, 2020 was very difficult for me, for everyone. I think it was. First of all, the games were delayed. There was a critical situation which was affecting globally. At work, it was very stressful because at the beginning, we didn't know how to act with things, how to protect the people, how to manage all this situation. And every day we arrived to work and we had a meeting with our boss, and he gave us the numbers, and the numbers each day were worse. Like more people who have died, more people who were in care units, in intensive care units, and it was like very bad news every day. So until we could see that things were improving, it was difficult. Then at the beginning of the year, before the coronavirus arrived, I was also diagnosed a rare genetic condition, and it was under questions if I could keep doing my sport until I had the genetic testing. Then the genetic testing came, and it was compatible with triathlon, but I had to start some treatment with medication, which was difficult to manage with training because it took down your heart rate. So I felt sometimes very physically tired and dizzy, and with a lot of side effects. So my goal during the pandemic, while training at home, was to be able to be back to my running speed and to my bike power, even having this medication program. And then when I went back to training outdoor and swimming and racing, it was very challenging because I just was doing training and high intensity training and racing, and I was just thinking if I was being very selfish with myself, or if I should be there, or if I should be at home, and maybe sports, competitive sports, was not 100% good for me. And it was very difficult to cope with all of this. Then in the summer, I had a little surgery to get one device implanted. And finally, I started to work with a sports psychologist to prepare that. I decided I wanted to go to Tokyo and to be the best in Tokyo. And you cannot be thinking while training that you shouldn't be there if you want to get strong and enjoy the process to the games. So I finally, at the end of the year, decided to start working with a sports psychologist, and it has been like the night and the day for me. I mean, now I'm feeling very happy with my sport. I'm feeling very confident. This is like, luckily, 2020 it was 365 days and no more. And I think I have learned from all of this, but it has been absolutely difficult.
Well, and you've got the kind of the twin, I guess, getting pulled in two very different directions. If you have your Paralympic dreams and goals and know what you need to get there, but you're dealing with the severity of a situation, and like you said, is it to feel, is it flippant almost to be thinking about training when this is going on? And no matter how bad the situation, you do have to think about yourself as well, don't you? It's great, and obviously everyone should be selfless where possible, but at some point you just got to take what's best for you as well and run with that.
Yes, these kind of decisions are difficult, and I am just sharing this with you because I am 100% sure that this has ever happened to our other triathletes, like elite or para triathletes or junior ones, or it's very difficult to manage all this information. And for me, that I am a doctor and I understand everything, it was like quite hard, but I think health comes first, like individually and also for the community, but individually it's the most important. And triathlon, it's very important, but there's nothing as important as life. And I remember this sentence that was said by friend Logan Vidal some years ago when he had some big challenges. I really admired him, and I remember him a lot last year. And I want to share this because when there's an athlete with this kind of situations, I think it's very important to know how to ask for help. And also, if you work with an athlete who has one of these challenging health situations, you have to pay attention to this and try to help, because it's absolutely difficult.
Yeah, if there's one positive to come out of the circumstances of the Tokyo Games, I suppose it's that conversation has been more to the fore, hasn't it? And people have been able to talk out a bit more, or feel like they have, and it's actually become sort of entwined with these games that mental health is not something that should just be shut away and put to the back seat.
Absolutely. Like maybe during the Olympics, all the case of Simone Biles that spoke about this. She's one of the very influential athletes worldwide, I think. And having her talk about this is absolutely important for the whole sports community. I think all the athletes, when we go to the Olympics or the Paralympics or World Championships, we need to manage a lot of pressure and fears and needs. Very difficult, when you go to the Olympics or the Paralympics and there are 3 medalists in each event, and there are a lot of athletes, the most of them who don't get a medal, and sometimes we all train as hard. It doesn't matter if you finish first or fifth or whatever. We all train very hard, and sometimes I don't think the society is fair with the athletes in this way. I was 5th in Rio, and after the race I felt absolutely disappointed. And a 5th place is not that bad. I really believe it's not that bad, but when I finished the race I was crying, and I felt really alone and really worried, because I had put a lot of work there. And now I feel like happy with myself, because I could in 5 years get much better as an athlete, and I could perform the best race in Tokyo.
So knowing you didn't want that feeling again, was that part of your preparation in a way? Did you find yourself sort of going back to that?
I didn't want to get myself back to that, never. And of course I learned a lot from that. It was some weeks that were difficult, but then you just say, okay, next season I will do better. And my guide, when we came back from Rio, she told me, okay, you are fifth, and this is your fair place at the moment. If you want to be ahead, you need to train harder. Maybe you can do it. We don't know, but you have to work harder and work harder and work harder. And this is what I have done in all these years. I feel happy about Tokyo that even I was racing with the factor. I did the fastest race in all the girls. So this is what means more to me from Tokyo, because I could do the best run, the best bike, and one of the best swims. So I'm happy with that. And now I have to think about future goals to do in the sport.
Yeah, so at the end of 2020, you spoke to the sports psychologist, and then it was very much sort of, apart from obviously the slight nagging doubt as to whether it would happen, but it was basically all guns towards Tokyo, and you were training in Lanzarote with Sarah, is that right?
Yeah, we were training in Lanzarote, in the Sands Beach resort. It's a place that I go every year. Lanzarote is a good place for triathlon. Now it's a bit strange because with the pandemic, there's not as many people as usually, but we like going there, and the roads are nice. And we were there like 12 days, and then we left to Sierra Nevada. Sierra Nevada is a high altitude training facility here in Spain. In fact, they were very happy because Christian Blumenfeld had been doing preparation there. And it's very hard to do the training there, but we really like this place because it's hard, but when I come back to the sea level, I feel very strong. And then we did 2 other weeks in Barcelona. We were in a bubble before traveling to Tokyo, all the Spanish teams. So we didn't have any coronavirus case in the whole national team of all the sports. And I was also doing heat chamber preparation both in altitude and then in Barcelona, because we knew the conditions in Tokyo were going to be very hard. In fact, I was very afraid of this situation. And when I was watching the males race of the Olympic Games, I was really feeling like I had a bit of fear to this because I had also always a lot of difficulties running in the heat. And also because of the hair condition, it's more challenging if you have a dehydration problem. It's the most dangerous thing. So I did a lot of preparation for Tokyo in this sense. And well, I think I did it quite well because even it was hard, I could manage all the training sessions in Japan.
And just finally, so this podcast will come out after the results of the IPC Athlete Committee vote, but you obviously a candidate, put yourself forward for that as well. And just interested to hear how the kind of things that you feel can be brought to the sport still. An awful lot has happened over the past sort of 4 or 5 editions of the games, and Jacques Rogge obviously passed away, but he was very much sort of fundamental in the raising of the profile of the IPC and so on, and the games themselves. So is it a case of just continuing that work, and are there specific things that you feel are important and need to be more considered?
No, I think the work that has been done for all the Paralympic movement in general in the last years, it's been really good, and we can see that the para sports are getting bigger and bigger, and the audience of the para sports are getting bigger and bigger. I think the games in London 2012 were a point when it had before and after, like things I think are going well. I have decided to, like with my country, to make this candidate because first of all, triathlon is still a very new sport into the Paralympic sports, and I think we have to try and get representation there in the Athletes Council. It's finally it's the place where the athletes can show their voice, and where our sport could show our voice and our concerns. I wish that triathlon can get more numbers into the Paralympics and keep growing. I think it's one of the most powerful sports in para sports, triathlon, because it has everything. Also, I when the National Paralympic Committee talked me about this, I accepted the proposal, because like last year when I have the health challenges, I just was thinking that if I could not keep doing the sport at an elite level, I wanted to keep giving something to the sport. So I decided to accept that challenge. And now that even I can keep doing triathlon, I feel happy that I can maybe give things to the sport, not only in the race course.
Yeah, I see. You're right. It is important to remember that was only the second time that triathlon has been in the Paralympics, and yeah, there's a long way to go still.
Yeah, there's a long way to go still, but I think we are in the good situation. I hope, and I don't know if we already know, that in Paris we could get more slots for the sport. We had 60, I think, in Rio, and we had 40 in Tokyo, but only 4 categories going in. And I hope that at any moment, like every athlete has the fair possibility to race, because currently all categories could race, but not in the most fair situation. So I hope in the future the sport can get more slots. This is not easy, and it depends on IPC decisions, but I think triathlon has a lot of potential. I hope that when each games finish in the next years, more people will come into the sport and will make the level grow and grow and grow. It has changed a lot since, like, when I won my first World Championships in New Zealand in 2012 in Auckland. I say I could race the kilometer in 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, if you race in that speed, you don't have chances to be in the podium or even to be in the World Championships. And this is very good for the sport, that time passes and the level gets higher and higher and higher.
Yeah. Well, thanks ever so much, Susana. It's been brilliant talking to you and fascinating hearing all about your career and times in Tokyo.
Thank you very much for calling and for making the para triathletes to the people to know what is our reality, that it is not far different from the Olympic athletes. And I hope that in 3 years we can have a really good triathlon races, at least as good as in Tokyo, even if not better. And I believe in a very good future for para triathlon in the upcoming years.
Absolutely. Great. With you at the forefront. Thanks ever so much, Susana.
Thank you very much.